So a minute or so to start. I think you will see some notifications saying we're live. So in a few seconds we're gonna start. So good luck, guys. Enjoy the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, welcome everyone to this new panel on day 2 of Nextv Plus USA 2022. My name is Juan Pablo Conti. I am the Director of Events North America at Dataxis. If there are 2 words that you will hear time and time again whenever you discuss the sports media industry today, they are fun and engagement. Usually pronounced in a single phrase, fun engagement. The truth is, no serious sports media organization today will go about business without instrumenting a well thought out fun engagement strategy. But really, what does it take to design and implement a successful fun engagement strategy today? What exactly are traditional new sports leagues, streaming companies and telcos doing to keep us at the edge of our seats when the action starts? Or perhaps even more importantly, when there is no action in the field? To find out, I'm joined by 4 experts who are all working at the cutting edge of fun engagement and applying all of their expertise, as well as the latest technologies and techniques to some of the most popular sports in America. So let me introduce them. Chris Pantoja is the Chief Commercial Officer and Head of Strategy of Fine Control Sports and Entertainment. Pam Allison is the Product Strategy and Innovation at Verizon. Pam was having some connection issues, so she will probably rejoin us in a few minutes as soon as that's sorted out. Eric Rimsky is the Associate Vice President of US Fantasy and Betting Lead at the NBA. And last but not least, Andrew Barge is the Chief Business Officer of Buzzer. Welcome, everyone. Okay, I have a question for all of you to start the discussion, because really all of you are working on companies, or in some cases, areas within your companies whose goal is essentially to develop or increase fun engagement. Now, my question is, why do you think has practically a fun engagement industry emerged in America? Isn't good old-fashioned live sports enough anymore to keep fans engaged? Who wants to start? Chris, let's start with you.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you for having me. I think fan engagement has become such a topic, one, because the networks and, the capabilities exist in order to provide interactivity and fan engagement. The other part is I feel like the consumer of today, just in general, patience for watching full-length games is, much smaller than it used to be. Everything really gives an opportunity to have interaction, and so why shouldn't sports? And that's really what we're up to at Fan Controlled Sports and Entertainment. We've kind of taken it, and because we've built what is a real live sports league from the ground up, we said to ourselves, like, what would you want if you were a fan today that was building a built-to-suit league? What would it look like? And so, we allow fans to identify the team they want to cheer for. They then get to name the team. They get to build the logos and the uniform designs. They also then every week in the season, they get to draft pick their players for the team weekly. And then during the game, they actually play call live and basically direct the game of play. They step in for the coaches, if you will. And so, we find that it really kind of builds on that gaming mentality, video games and interactivity and fantasy activity that takes place already with sports, and really just makes it a native part of our league.
Okay, excellent. And we're going to delve, of course, in more detail into that very interesting model that you've practically created out of nothing. Andrew?
Yeah, I think in terms of whether good old-fashioned live sports is enough, I think it kind of depends on your audience, right? It depends on where your fan sort of lies in the broader engagement spectrum. And for our audience, which is primarily Gen Z and millennial, when you're dealing with sports fans in their 20s versus the 30s, the question might actually be, are live sports actually accessible enough to engage them in the first place? So for us, it's a bit more of a fundamental question. The data actually suggests that it isn't largely. I mean, you have 65% of sports fans between the ages of 18 and 35, which is really our sweet spot, consuming sports on mobile apps. And the largest category, the fastest growing consumption format is live clips and highlights on social media platforms, not live. So that the energy and the uncertainty that comes with live sports, what we all love about it, that connection is actually eroding with live viewers, the most valuable demographic you can reach as a sports media entity. So just at Buzzer being very hyper focused on kind of reintroducing the younger generation of fans to the live moment and all of that energy, you have to think a lot differently about what it means to engage them, the format, the delivery mechanism. The downstream stuff is really exciting too. Like we spend a lot of time thinking about betting integrations and personalization and data and editorial, and that's all fantastic. But it kind of starts with how much time do they have on their hands? How much money are they willing to spend to watch sports? What point of the game is most interesting to them? So we think about engagement not just as a cool kind of means of retaining them and deepening their experience, but also like, how do we get them to watch live sports in the first place? Because that's something that our entire industry is grappling with and ultimately relying on Buzzer to help solve.
Thanks. Pam, glad you made it. That connection issue was quickly solved, right on time, just on time for the. Is your mic working, Pam? No, no. Okay. Don't think we can hear you. You're not muted on your side, right? Because we could hear you just when you logged in the first time. Okay, let me go to Eric while we see if we can help you with our team in the background. Eric, on your side for that opening question, why does that even a fan engagement industry exist and isn't good old-fashioned live sports enough anymore? What's your take on that, Eric?
Yeah, I think that Chris and Andrew's points are extremely relevant and very, very much similar to the way that we think about things at the NBA as well. Shifting fan expectations, the need for increased personalization and enhanced competition. It's not just sports any longer. It's sports, it's entertainment, it's content that's at your fingertips. Anything that you want to watch basically at any moment, at any time is available. And when we think about the NBA and our games, we're competing not against live sports necessarily, we're competing against all entertainment content. And therefore, the fan experience and the way that we engage fans has to be done at a level that's different from what it's done in the past and has to be enhanced. From a macro level, the NBA launched a new app prior to the season, which has been a big experience, a big opportunity for us. And the whole focus and emphasis on that was personalization, is giving fans an opportunity to experience the games and follow the games in a way that meant the most to them, which could touch on elements around player storylines. It could touch on SR efforts. It could touch on fantasy and gaming. And so for me and our group in the fantasy and betting group, having fantasy and betting alongside the live game as a secondhand experience. That's just another way to engage the fan with something that's critical and that's something that's unique based on their preferences. For us, fantasy and gaming is an opt-in experience for our fans. We want our fans to indicate that it's something that they're most interested in. But then we think it amplifies the fan experience by having the opportunity to play games or bet on sports if it's legal or if it makes sense for you, alongside the live game. And it introduces you to different types of content, and it introduces you to different teams and players.
Thanks for that. Pam, let us know. Probably you're still. We can see you. We cannot hear you, but don't worry. We still have more than half an hour to sort it out. No worries. We'll get there in the end. Andrew, as we are saying that there is consensus among the industry that sports audiences, and especially the younger generations, your target really audience, as you correctly said, that they no longer tolerate sitting down 2-3 hours to watch a game, but they still do crave for those highlights that condense key moments into a couple of minutes. Now, Buzzer, it's a good opportunity for you to explain really what Buzzer is for those who don't know you, because you seem to have not only taken notice of this trend or need for very short form highlights of sport in action, but at the same time, you've managed to actually give access to fans to those highlights in real time, to live content. So my question is, how is something like watching live highlights even possible, right? Because that seems to me that this is what you've created with Buzzer.
Yeah, we're not done yet. We still got a lot of exciting work to do, but it's a really I think cool and pretty intuitive idea for folks who are sports fans in 2022. I mean, it's never been in our technological age, sports have never been more accessible at a fundamental level. Like, you have access to your favorite athletes and just everyone is everywhere. But at the same time, just watching an individual sport oftentimes requires an economic commitment or a time commitment that is with just so much optionality elsewhere. It's quite taxing. So with Buzzer, we really think about aggregation. We think about personalization. We think about really defining the moments of a game that are most compelling. So we're ultimately a sports streaming app that is short form and really focused on reaching the fan wherever they are and delivering the moments that they care about the most. I mean, internally, our atomic unit, like our reason for being is moments. We think a lot about the live moment. And obviously like social highlights become commoditized quite quickly, right? As soon as the live moment is over, it exists just about everywhere, and there's no real mystery about what's going to happen. There's no kind of community feeling. A lot of the energy that you get from live sports is gone. But the challenge of detecting that moment, delivering it to the fan in a relevant and topical manner, making that product experience seamless so that when you tap it, you're right into the viewing experience. Again, if you miss that moment, it becomes it's on Twitter or it's on Instagram. It's a commodity. So in terms of like how do we make it possible, the technological challenge is quite meaningful. Like, we really have to understand what our fans find interesting, and as a result, the product not only has to be relevant, it has to be fast and it has to be seamless. So at the moment, we have the NBA live streaming on Buzzer. We have a multi-year agreement with the WNBA as well. We just announced both of those. We have the ATP, which is a multi-year agreement as well, and that's gonna unlock weekly premium tennis on Buzzer throughout all of 2023, which we're quite excited about. But all of these partners are essentially trusting us with their most valuable asset, which is live sports, and that's a meaningful responsibility that our team it's something that we sort of bring to work with us every day, and kind of translating that into a format in a delivery mechanism that resonates with young fans, the ones that are the most hard to reach. It's a challenge, but it's quite energizing, and it's something that I think most people, when we talk to to about Buzzer, they recognize that it is something that the industry needs, that it is fragmented, that it is expensive, and that it is quite time consuming. The only other sort of component I would add that I haven't referenced yet is betting. We have a fantastic partnership with FanDuel. They powered the odds in our app. They're working with us on using our moments to fulfill folks who are wagering on their site. It's very obvious that young fans over-index as bettors. So beyond sort of the mobile endemic format that we offer, betting is sort of an additional engagement layer for us that's also quite exciting. So we're really just getting started. We just launched last October, but the ecosystem's response has been really exciting, and it's possible because we have a really smart product team building, and we have really fantastic partners who are willing to trust us. So,
and you have the rights, of course, to that content.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric, for those rights. I just got a shout out. So thank
you. Pam, let's try now. I think.
Can you hear?
Yes, we can. Welcome. Yes, of course. That's great. That's great. So Pam, I think the opening question has already been very clearly set out. There is clearly a lot of reasons for fans to be more engaged than previously. So I'd like just to go with you, because you have been leading at Verizon much of the experimentation work that the company has been doing on social, on gaming, and the metaverse. Tell us, how can these technologies be used or are being used to take fan engagement to a different level? Tell us about your experience at Verizon with these technologies and fan engagement.
Yeah, so Verizon's all about enabling these experiences, right? So with our technologies of 5G and edge compute and, eventually, slicing where you can have dedicated bandwidth for specific things, engaging those experiences is what we want to do. So when the fan is watching the game, they can get those real-time stats right in sync with the event that they're watching. So we're developing this core network layer and APIs in order to do that. So we've done a handful of proofs of concept to display that. So everything from with immersive, for example, and the NHL, where you could put up a phone and get statistics about a player who's on the ice in real time. And what's really important about it is that real time, is that low latency content. So whether that's video or data, delivering that in real time is what makes that experience much more meaningful. And of course, we want to, we're not going to develop the experience. We're going to partner with companies like all the ones here, to deliver those experiences. So we've even at some NFL games last season with some NFL teams, we did an AR game called Ultra Toss, where you could in real time virtually toss a football onto the field, and you can see everybody doing the same thing and at the same time. So it's this kind of really immersive, fun, crowd experience to get everybody really involved. So yeah, we're looking to keep doing those kinds of things.
Excellent. Eric, Andrew was emphasizing the role that betting can have around fan engagement. This is your specialization at the NAB. Tell us, how are traditional leagues in general and the NBA in particular using fantasy sports and betting to keep fans engaged? What's working around that?
Yeah, I think we have great partners, just as Andrew mentioned, in Buzzer, and the partnerships around fantasy and betting for the NBA are ideal in that they're mutually beneficial. The Buzzer having the opportunity to provide fans with League Pass, the opportunity to watch the games that they care about in the moments that they care about most is critical for their business, but it's critical for ours also. We want our fans having the best possible experience around the live game. So partnerships with distributors and content providers, such as buzzers and other, is critical to our overall ecosystem and getting fans to watch live games. Beyond that, when PASPA was repealed 4.5 years ago, we opened up lines of communication with, all the U.S.-based operators who started to offer sports betting here around the U.S. as it's become legalized on a state-by-state basis. And our strategy was to look at that in a non-exclusive way, which gave us the opportunity to work with as many betting partners as possible, which creates a fan experience that's better than one would be if they didn't have the opportunity to put IP in the apps or offer dedicated markets that were reliant on official data. So for us, having a variety of different partnerships that are able to engage fans in multiple ways and giving them a best-in-class experience has been critical to the success of our group and to seeing the growth of betting on basketball across the U.S. over the last 4.5 years.
Thanks. And Chris, I think betting and sports have historically really complemented each other really well. My question is, what happens when you bring the worlds of betting and fan control sports together? What are the possibilities there?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I'll give a little bit more detail about the format and the way in which our league works, because it helps understand the discussions we've been having with the gaming commissions here in the U.S. One, we really kind of started over. When you think about the American football format, we went from what is now, a 2.5 hour, 3 hour, 3+ hour game. Sometimes we've got a 1 hour running clock, much like, international football. The other thing is we've eliminated parts of the game that really slow down play, like kicking. Nobody wants to see the game come down to a kick, somebody that's been sitting on the bench the entire game and have it all come down to that one moment. The other thing is we've really built it from digital from the beginning. So we've used a lot of technology, both from the production technology in the sense that we've got drone cams, we've got lots of really hi-fi views of the field and of the game. In addition, we built it from digital in the sense that we've got live chat happening during the game. So there's a lot of interactivity from that perspective. We've got a leaderboard. So when fans make decisions about what they want the players to do, and if it goes well, they start to climb the leaderboard. We always say that our fans, are interesting in that, we've all been to a game from our favorite team and said, we did it, we won. And, we always say, well, really, what did you do? If you were just in the stands drinking beer, shouting, did you really do anything? But our fans actually are doing something, right? They're deciding what's going to happen on the field in order to translate into goals. In addition, we've even brought real, I would say, transparency around the referees. In our first season, there was kind of a little bit of noise in one of our games, and there were some bad referee calls, and the fans were just going crazy in the chat. And so we got in the chat and we said, we will come back to you by next week. This time we will have a new solution for the referee situation. And so we came out with the ability for fans to overturn bad referee calls. And so then it becomes a voting situation, hundreds of thousands of fans getting in there and voting and deciding what's going to happen with that particular play and that particular call. And so, with all that, it's, very deep in technology, but at the core, one of the things we talk to the gaming commissions about is it's still very much a legitimate league. We have, championship ring wearing coaches. We've got training staff, all kinds of stuff, players that come from big name schools and backgrounds. And they really come together. We've got a sanctioning body as a proper league. And so when we've talked to the gaming commissions, and we actually have gotten approval from New Jersey, among a number of other states for sports betting on our games. And the reason being is we've been able to show that, one, there's a real appetite by our fans for that additional type of engagement. And in addition, there's all the kind of controls in place and the governance capability and that type of thing built on this new format. So we had our first ever paid contest with prize picks in our championship game in June. And so we're really just continuing to build from there with the different partners across the ecosystem to bring that added experience or fan engagement opportunity.
Thanks for that. Pam, what future applications can you see already for augmented reality in live sports? And I would like to include esports in this question. What are you seeing in that field?
Yeah, so there's a few things. One is, the ability to get real-time information about what you're watching. So that can be, an NFL game, an NBA game, a Rocket League game, or even a concert, right? It can even go beyond sports, where I can hold up my phone and I can, get augmented information about what I'm watching. So, it could be everything from the stats about the real-time stats about the players. It could be in a concert that I'm seeing special effects. It could be a lot of different things. And it really becomes more engaging. And that can be within the venue or at home. It really doesn't matter, but it enables you to have a deeper connection, to what you're watching, and having it in real time, and, having no latency between what you're watching, so you get that immediate information, is really critical. And then at the game,
is that a challenge as well? Just getting no latency for an experience like this?
Absolutely, right? Right. You need a great network, of course, like Verizon. But yeah, it absolutely is. There's a lot of factors, and it's something that we're working on to create better experiences, and also more immersive experiences. Delivering a really deep immersive experience can take a lot of bandwidth, and when you want want it to look as great as possible, and to feel very natural, is a challenge. And that's something that we're really working on, is creating that core technology to enable those kinds of experiences. We think, we know people are starting to become more interested in AR, in augmented reality. It's becoming more and more expected in a lot of different ways, from what they're, from kind of immediately what they're watching, to advertising, to just engaging in the world around them. So, and having it as realistic as possible, and also the ability to engage with other people in that experience. People are coming into these wanting to be social and wanting to interact, and having it as natural and real time as possible makes for a better experience, which will only grow the number of people who want it. And going back to, I think, something Andrew, I was able to catch earlier, was, engaging that younger demographic, as we kind of look at some of these sports like NFL, and, it's an older audience. And in order to pull in this younger audience, they're interacting with their phone. It's in their hand in every single thing that they do. So if you can bring this into that experience, you're going to help educate them, help entertain them. There's a bit of the ADD also. They're looking at everything around them. They're wanting to engage on their phone. They're wanting to share with all of their friends. It's just what's expected. So, we want to help enable that going forward.
Okay, great points there. Eric, once a year, the NBA runs a competition, NBA Launchpad is the name. It's essentially a process to identify startups developing emerging technologies that can benefit the league in a number of areas. And this year, sports betting experience was selected as a priority area in this search for innovation. What specific innovations are you expecting to emerge from this process?
Yeah, so I think Launchpad it's in its second year, and maybe it's sort of our version of an accelerator in some respects, and I think maybe a little bit of FOMO from some of the other companies that are represented here in terms of how well they've innovated, and we felt like we needed a formal program in order to keep up. So last year when we launched, the emphasis was very much about the on the court action, making it and products that would improve potentially the gameplay specifically. We had a lot of success. We saw a tremendous amount of potential, not only in the program, but in the companies that came out of NBA Launchpad, and chose to expand the offerings that would be included this year to envelop things outside of just the game itself, but would amplify the live game experience. And sports betting, of course, being a big priority for the league and something that helps amplify fan engagement around the game, was chosen as one of those opportunities. One of the challenges that we're seeing in the industry for sports betting right now is just the lack of product innovation across the board. Because of the way sports betting is being undertaken around the U.S. with respect to statewide launches, you're seeing individual states coming up, every quarter or so. The product capabilities and product roadmaps for the operators that are working with are really dedicated towards making sure their apps are working properly and that all the backend systems are working in each individual state launch. And because of that, the prioritization hasn't necessarily been around product innovation, and it's been much more about going live and in the States, which is, of course, of critical importance. So for us, we felt like it was important to play a role through NBA Launchpad to try to incubate some other opportunities for sports betting innovation. And as I said, the live game is sort of what's most important. So while we're looking at a number of different things, the advent and the continued proliferation of live betting is really the main emphasis for this year. Getting fans to engage with betting throughout the games that they're watching. So we received a number of really exciting submissions already. We're really excited to collaborate with these companies and believe that there's real opportunity to continue to expand this program in the future.
Okay. Andrew and Chris, in this panel, I think you're both the representatives of the startups into this discussion. Of course, both the NBA and Verizon have decades-long experience in their own fields, but I think it's interesting that in both of your cases, the go-to-market strategy of both buzzer and fan-controlled sports was really built around one specific popular sport, basketball in one case, football in the other. At the same time, you're both actively working to replicate the same models into other sports, and I think, Andrew, you already mentioned tennis and the ATP. Chris, you might want to also mention some of your upcoming sports into the platform. But really, my question is it easier adding new sports once you've developed as a startup that concept and you've proven the concept and the infrastructure is in place? What's your answer to that? Andrew, you first.
Sure. I think on the technical side, the answer is actually no for us, because you really have to treat all sports with the specificity that they kind of command. Every time we bring in a new partner, we're ingesting new data streams and new video pipelines, and we're building new social graphs just from square one. And everything from the scheduling to the fan behavior is different. And so obviously, like detecting a moment that a fan would want to watch for an NBA game, like Trae Young has 39 points, let's see if he gets to 40, versus like a multi-set, like the third set of a tennis match. It's just going to be totally different. But so technical, I think it always sort of requires its own unique overhaul, which is a privilege and something that we really love doing. But on the user side, absolutely. I think the product really improves as more sports come on board. Our algorithms get smarter. As a fan, we can more effectively cover your interests, as well as be better partners, right? We can find commonalities between different types of sports fans. Like if Rafael Nadal fans over-index as New York Knicks fans, for example, we can educate the NBA and their marketing team and perhaps uncover some communities that they aren't currently reaching. How fans bet within tennis versus sports. Are they betting far in advance? Are they over-indexing on prop bets? Like these are types of cross-sport insights that when you're really fixating on the live experience, we think are quite novel and quite interesting. But ultimately, again, making our algorithms smarter, making our social graph smarter, which is why we're focused on bringing in more sports and filling out the buzzer portfolio.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah. So, we always say that fan-controlled football was our first stop, not our last. So we started with American football, and with the idea that eventually we would launch more sports and build a year-round platform of fan-controlled sports and entertainment. So we've also talked about fan-controlled concerts. We've got guys like Steve Aoki and Quavo that are owners of our football teams. And so, I think similarly to Andrew, certainly there are different things you have to do when launching a new sport relative to our model when you think about the way the actual game interaction is and what decisions fans get to make. We've announced that we're going to be launching fan-controlled hoops here in 2023. And so we'll have both American football and hoops where fans can make all the big decisions. And so, of course, we had to kind of start fresh to say, okay, you can't be calling real-time plays in basketball. It moves too quickly. What would that look like? And so we're going to be really creating almost a live version of NBA Jam. The players are going to play on an LED floor, and fans will be able to light up different zones and players. And when a lit zone or player, when there's a score from one of those zones or players, there's lots of bonus points. So lots of decisions there, substitutions, that kind of thing. So really just fundamentally had to rethink what that fan engagement exactly is like and what control points there are. But beyond that, building an audience, engaging them kind of preseason all the way through the season, real time, and then into the next sport. Certainly there's a lot of synergy there. Also really leveraging the built for digital model where we built it around kind of personalities or team owners versus cities. And so the fact that it's really in one location, it's, built for digital, live interactive chat, some of the work we're doing on sports betting, all of that translates from sport to sport to, whatever other fan controlled event that we launch.
Thanks for that. I was just thinking, Chris, I remember having a conversation with you a while ago, and you were explaining how the profile of the players themselves is something that you've been working very hard. It would be assumed that it is difficult to get the actual professional players to be the players in your league, but there is training involved, heavy training. I mean, would it be the ideal to have professional sportsmen joining your league? Is it something that could happen one day? How are you working around the level of the sports in general?
Yeah, so the type of athlete that we're looking for is really that guy, in using our football league as an example, a guy that has played Division I or Division II college ball, maybe is no longer eligible, NCAA, of course, and has attempted to try out for a training squad for the NFL, maybe made it, maybe was in the league for a year, maybe has played overseas professionally, but really is looking for their chance to shine and get noticed. We've had a total of 5 guys either go from playing in our league into an NFL training squad or actually making an NFL team. And so, we feel we're very complementary, right? We are not looking to compete with the NFL. And so, that's kind of the first part of our strategy, is going after these guys that are great on the field. But we also like guys that are great with the fans, because we encourage the fans to talk directly to the athletes, because they're kind of thinking about their strategy week to week for drafting these players. They're thinking about their strategy for how to play call for their team once the team is built. And so that connection directly between fan and athlete is really important. The other thing we've done is we've also, each season, in the first 2 seasons of fan-controlled football, we're preparing for our third. We've had guys like Terrell Owens, or T.O., as he's often known, and Johnny Manziel come and play for our league. And so it's not because they're going to be the guys that are the core of our athletes, but they really bring kind of notice and excitement and headlines to the league. And then there are also great mentors on the field. I know our guys this last season playing along T.O. were so excited that they were playing with a Hall of Famer, 6-time All-Star. And he was out there coaching them. He was in training every day and was alongside these guys, talking to them about what they needed to do differently based on last week. He was taking feedback. One of our coaches said, T.O. came up to me and was like, hey, what am I doing? Arena football, indoor football, 7-on-7, 50-yard field is very different than what I played in the NFL. And so I'm trying to figure out some of the dynamics. Give me a little bit of insight on this particular thing. So, really kind of builds a neat collaborative environment, but also brings that attention to the league for these guys that are really coming up in their own right.
Mm-hmm. Pam, how personal is content personalization in today's sports media consumption? And really, what role are mobile phones playing? As the Verizon representative, you can see this question, why it's addressed to you. Personal content and mobile phones, there's a direct relationship there, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, consumers, want what they want, right? They want to create an experience that is most interesting to them. I think as Chris said, they want to interact with their favorite player, and get information, whether it's, coaching them and telling them what to do in their next game, or just even interacting with them. And a mobile phone can help you do that. It helps you get that connection in real time, and whether that's kind of during the game. I love the idea. You're giving me some ideas, Chris, of how can you create experiences where you're in real time, affecting what is going on, and being able to make much quicker decisions. So we've experimented at Verizon with controlling a concert, controlling a musical experience. So, we had done something with Pandora where you could vote on maybe what showed up on the screen, or voted on the next song. But even having things that are much faster in real time. So you also really feel part of the experience. That's a trend that's coming, that's here, which is fans want to be a part of the experience and have a say in what they see, and whether it's like complete voting or you get to choose a piece of it, that will keep the fans much more engaged.
And staying on mobile phones, Andrew, tell us a bit more about how Buzzr's monetization model work, and why really was the platform conceived as mobile only?
Yeah, monetization it's pretty straightforward. You can access live moments on Buzzr via a micropayment, so that's a $1 or a $2 payment. An existing subscription like NBA League Pass, or through a crediting system that we launched back in October. Credits are a really interesting opportunity for us to engage partners like sportsbooks as reward program, and we've got some really exciting plans that we look forward to sharing more formally soon. In terms of why mobile, I think that's so inherent to our DNA. I think most importantly, it's what works best for our audience. I mean, if you're trying to reach Gen Z, the phone is sort of the starting point, but we're also trying to deliver moments at literally a moment's notice wherever the fans are. So you really have to sort of tap into the mobility that platform literally offers. I think secondarily, our partners, right? We've no desire to compete with the living room experience. That's a very well-established and lucrative just forum for live sports viewership. We think the problem to solve, and frankly, what partners are relying on us to figure out is how you reach the fans on the outskirts, the fans that are again, 65% of the fans between the ages of 18 and 35 aren't consuming in that way. They're on their phones, and we think there's a meaningful audience to reach if we can figure out the proper partnerships and continue to build meaningful momentum on the product side. So mobile was always part of our DNA.
Chris, Pam, and Eric, I understand you've all experimented around NFTs, collectibles. We have probably 2 minutes. That's all the time we have for the rest of the session. But if you can, in 40 seconds each, tell us a bit about some of the conclusions of your early experimentation around collectibles. Chris?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've found with NFTs is that we launched a project with our 4 expansion teams in season 2. The idea was that fans that held the NFTs, not only got a stake in the league or in their team, but they also got additional decision-making powers, as well as IRL experiences and exclusive merchandise. And so an example of each of those, if you had a 99 jersey on your NFT, which is like a football player, basically is the artwork. If you had the number 99 and you were a holder of that, you could play call a very specific play throughout the games during the season that only 99 jersey holders could call. If you were in the game, if you actually came to our live venue in Atlanta, you could run your team out of the tunnel. You could take what we use as a coin toss for possession, which is paper, rock, scissors. And then lastly, we worked with Round 21 to do an exclusive merch drop, an actual football to each of the NFT holders that replicated some of the merch inside of their NFT, inside of the artwork. So I think our takeaway has been make sure there's real utility, and that really helps it grow and build, is when there's something beyond just the collectible nature of it, but also utility.
Thanks for that. Eric, also very briefly, your reflection on your experience on NFTs.
Sure, yeah, briefly. We've been curious about this space for a couple of years now, and I think that's what led to the original relationship between us and Dapper Labs, which eventually led to NBA Top Shot, which was a pretty significant effort in the NFT space. But very similar to what Chris said, the idea that NFTs would be utilized as a utility and not necessarily a collectible. I think that's something that we've learned a lot about. And we just recently launched a partnership with SoRare, which is the NFT fantasy game company, which is sort of a mashup of fantasy gaming and NFTs. And so continuing to see that evidence over time that if fans are being offered some utility alongside their NFT, that's providing dividends to us.
Thanks for that. And also, Pam, in 30 seconds, your conclusions on NFTs.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll continue to say utility for an NFT. Totally agree. We did an experiment about a year and a half ago where we volumetrically captured some esports players and offered that up as an NFT. But what we did is we combined it with a live signing. So it was a digital signing event. And then we merged those two NFTs together, merged those 2 tokens. So that was your full NFT. That gave that really personal fan experience with something really unique that the fans could have.
Chris, Pam, Eric, Andrew, I can honestly say time has flown. We had a few other questions that I wanted to make sure to put to you. It's been a fascinating discussion. You've been fantastic. So thanks a lot to all of you. To our audience also, thanks very much. We have one final session in 15 minutes. So we'll look forward to seeing you there. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you so much.
You.
Take care.
Take care.